I'm here with Kristin MacRae with Organizing in Rhode Island.
Hi, Molly.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. You're an organizing and efficiency expert.
Yes.
Kind of a tongue twister there, but love to have you. You've already helped me with my life. She brought me in this huge desk calendar, which is super helpful. So let's talk a little bit about signs and ways to help people get organized. So you do a lot to help a lot of people. And you've been with Go Local writing for us. So if you
almost 5 years.
5 years now. So if you need some extra help after this, you can go and read all of our articles. So what are some signs that people need help getting organized?
So many people are just overwhelmed. They have a lot going on, they're stressed out, they're anxious, a lot of different emotional things that are going on where they just break down and shut down, and then they kind of fall apart, and then they call me because they're just too overwhelmed and they need some help.
So we're going to jump into 6 ways that you need to do before you actually take that step to get organized. Because, of course, if you are so organized, you need to get organized before you can get organized.
Exactly.
When I looked at this, I was like, of course, you have to get organized before you can get organized.
Right.
All right, so you really should, before you jump into that organization project, you said you really need to follow a plan. So make a plan.
Exactly, because so many people think on a Thursday afternoon they can get organized, and then 2 hours later they can go out and do something else. And it's like you have to plan ahead. You can't decide at 2 that you want to do something and have plans a few hours later. You really have to sit down, think about what you need to do, think about what your vision is for the space that you're working in, come up with a plan. A lot of times so many people, they get busy but not productive when they want to get organized. So they bounce around from room to room, and they don't know what they're doing, and they don't have a plan in place, so they don't get much done. And then they burn out after an hour, and they're in the same spot they were to begin with. So have a plan, think about what you want to do. If you have to, do a brain dump, get it all onto paper. There's nothing wrong with that, about thinking about how you want to map it out, breaking it down into a process, and then move forward from there. But at least have a plan, because you can't go into it just, I'm going to tear apart a room and then think it's going to be okay.
Because then it usually will just stay torn apart.
Exactly, and people are so overwhelmed that they don't know where to start. So by just doing that brain dump and getting it onto paper, it releases that mental clutter a little bit.
What are some ways you can do that? Do you suggest, I mean, some people are visual, so maybe doing like a map or a cluster or just writing things down?
I say whatever works for you. If you want to just write it down, stand maybe in the doorway of the room and say, okay, what do I like about this room? What don't I like about this room? How do I want to function going forward in this room? As opposed to just like start tearing apart drawers, because then you're going to, an hour later, you're going to be like, what am I doing? I don't have a plan. I don't know how I want to function. So just like maybe writing it down or using your iPad, whatever you want to. I always tell people, listen, however you function, that's great. And if whatever's going to work for you, that's how you want to do it.
Okay, so the next is work in 3-hour increments. And that, to me, sounds like a lot. I cannot fold clothes or I cannot do anything for 3 hours. But you say it's a perfect amount of time.
It is, because 1 hour, you can't get much done. 2 hours, sometimes I'll say, okay, do a 2-hour project, but 3 hours is like a good time, because some people say, oh, I want to work for 6 hours, and I'm like, no, you don't. And then when I'm with clients, it's like 3 hours go by, and they're like, you know what, you were right, I'm burnt out after 3 hours, because they don't realize when you're working 3 hours, you're working without distractions 3 hours straight. And that's the only way that you can move forward with this project, is if you're really in the room, focused for 3 hours. So that's why I say limit your project to 3 hours. Start maybe you could do a small project, like your sock drawer, and that would only take like 20 minutes. That's fine, but when you're attacking your home office or your bedroom, you want to have that good chunk of time. But if you need to break that process down even further, where you're like, I know I can't do a 3-hour session, for 15 minutes, or your junk drawer for like 20 minutes, and just start there. Start somewhere. That's basically what you need to do. Don't prolong the project.
Do you think like setting an alarm on your phone, or maybe listening to like 3 songs, or what are some ways that you can really set that timer?
I always say set a time limit. So again, set it for half an hour, and then if the project takes you less, that's awesome. You've completed it in less time, but you want to have a time limit when you're doing these projects, because now you're saying, all right, I have a half hour left, I have this much left to do, so you always want to set a time limit, and it'll keep you on track too.
And could you work less than 3 hours? Is that fine?
Yeah, you definitely could. You want to get done as quick as possible. You don't want to waste time while you're doing this. Again, you want to be productive, not busy. So having that plan going into it is going to help you stay on track, and keeping with that 3 hours is going to be, you should stay with the 3 hours, but 2 hours again, 1 hour is okay.
All right, and you said limit yourself to distractions. Limit those distractions, which I think, especially now, when people have kids, if people are getting emails on their phone, work, social media, sometimes you want to be distracted. I think especially when you're tackling a project, like,
that you really don't want to do. You're saying, yeah, the phone's ringing, I'm going to answer that, and
exactly.
I'll leave this for later. But that's the number one reason why projects don't get completed. People don't stay on task, they lose focus. So I say the biggest thing is stay in the room you're working in. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give you. Have a bin outside the door, and anything that needs to get transferred to another room, put it in that bin, and then transfer it when you're done organizing. Because the minute you leave that room, you're not going to go back. You're going to see something shiny in another room, and now you're going to have a mess in 2 rooms. So I always say,
that's me.
So I always say, stay in the room you're working in, and also shut off the phone. Don't check social media. Shut the TV off. Sometimes with the TV being on, you hear something in the other room.
On order, marathons on.
And you'll go and sit down, and then you're like, what was I doing? And then that's why most projects don't get finished. And I'm sure people out there can understand that, because you've tried to start a project, you get distracted, lose focus, and then these projects don't get done. So stay in the room you're working in for 3 hours. Let that room hold you hostage for 3 hours. Trust me on this.
So I like the idea of having a bin outside. Let's stick with that for a second. So say it's your bedroom, and you really want to organize your bedroom, but you might not have enough room. Or say it's your clothes. So let's talk about that one single bin, and you need to get stuff to other places. Yeah. How do you work with people to just focus on that?
Just to stay in that room. Really, it's funny because some clients will like say, come upstairs, I want to show you this, and sometimes I'll go and I'll be like, no, you got to come back downstairs, because then, or sometimes they'll say, I'm going to go and put this away, and I'll be like, no, 5 minutes later I have to run around the house looking for them, so I'm like, where did they go? So you really have to stay in that room, keep the bin outside. So I just have to tell them, listen, we're going to be in this room for 3 hours, and whatever needs to go to another room, like 20 minutes before we're done, or 15 minutes before we're done, we'll transfer everything over, or I'll leave them with homework where they can transfer it to another room. And know that some rooms will get other rooms will get messy during this process. Not messy, but when you're organizing one room, now you're transferring things to another room, but then we'll get to that room eventually, and then we'll organize that room too. Because sometimes when all the rooms are disorganized, you need to start somewhere, and then things need to get transferred, so that other room that we need to get to might get a little cluttered, but knowing that once we get to that room, there'll be a place for all those things.
Yeah, so what do we do with the bin? When do we get to that part? Because I'm thinking, all right, there's a lot of stuff in my bin right now that I need to get to, and if that's me, I'm just going to throw that bin in the basement.
Yeah, that you don't want to do. So most of the time...
that's me.
So I'll give you, for instance, I was organizing a bedroom not too long ago, and she had a lot of paper in the bedroom, but she had a home office. So I said, let's move all the paper for now into that home office. When we get to the home office, then we'll organize your paper, because we know that's where it's going to live. Okay. So we organized the bedroom. The bin actually went into the home office. Now we're working most recently in that home office, so now all the paper's categorized, and now there's a place for the paper. So just knowing, it gives them peace of mind that knowing the paper's going in the home office and it's going to live there helps them release like that overwhelm that they're feeling, because they know it's not coming back in the bedroom, and now the bedroom's organized. So it's if you have many rooms to organize, it's a process throughout the house, and you'll get there eventually. So
and knowing that things have a place.
Exactly, having that every room, everything should have every room should have a purpose.
Every room has a purpose.
Yes.
And I like the fact that you say, don't jump into and out of those places, and don't check. It's easier to say don't check social media or emails for 3 hours, but because that could be overwhelming in itself.
Exactly. And I say that just as a guide. I mean, if you have to check it, but just as every 5 minutes, don't check to see how many likes you have on your Instagram.
Yeah. Just try it.
It's just a guide. I don't want to say, don't, but if I tell you in the beginning, try not to, it helps speed the process along.
Okay, so the next one is stay on task and focus, which we've kind of touched on. And you have to empty the space that you're working in, which sounds very challenging.
So many people think that they can just transfer things in the room, or if they're doing a closet, everyone thinks, well, I haven't worn this, and I'll just take this out. I want you to empty that entire closet. Because what happened? Yeah, the whole closet.
What? How?
And I'll ask people too. When's the last time you emptied your closet? And some people are like,
when I moved.
So you have to take everything out. Every season you should do this. Every season you should be taking everything out of your closets, flipping them around.
What? That's way too much work.
Listen, you won't. When you do that, you won't believe what I found. I found people who've had gift cards back there that forgot they were there. Clothes with tags on them shoved in the bottom of the closet, because what happens is when you're just rotating things around every season, you forget what you have, you don't know what's dropped to the bottom of the closet, and then think of all the dust that's floating around the closet.
Gross, yeah.
All the shoes that have dust on them, things like that. And it's good to touch every piece of clothing every season to actually see, what am I wearing, what aren't I wearing, what do I need to buy, that kind of thing. And then you can't get a clear vision of how you want to function moving forward if you're looking at the clutter. So I say we take everything out, and it's a process, of course, but once you take everything out, now you're looking at this blank space like just when you moved in your home. Now you can say, well, this wasn't working, this was working, and this is how I want to function going forward. So that's why I say empty the whole space, because you really have to take inventory of everything you haven't been looking at over the past years.
And then when you put it back, you almost have more control over how you want to organize things, whether it's by color, whether you have those cubbies, or I know that was really helpful for me, especially in New England homes where you might not have the best closet space. I know one apartment I had a whole closet room.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was very nice. It was hard to downsize from that closet room.
Yeah.
So what if you have, say, a spare room that just everything ends up in the spare room? How do you really empty that? Like, how can you if you don't have room in the other rooms?
So you have to, again, and trust me, you will have room, because every area organized, we always find room. Because when you take things out of a space, you'll see how much space you actually have. When there's clutter in the way, it's hard to see how much space you really have. So that spare room that everybody has a spare room. Everybody that they just throw stuff in.
Or basement or garage or something.
They just shut the door and company comes over, things get thrown in.
Yeah.
So having a purpose, you have to create a purpose for every room in your home. Because with that spare bedroom, could just be a spare bedroom. It's only used for when people come over or to stay over. So think about transforming that room into maybe a little home office for yourself, or transforming it into a gym or a meditation area, whatever it may be, but don't let it be that catch-all. So go through that room and figure out what is actually in that room piece by piece. And a lot of people just leave it because the process is so overwhelming that they just shut the door and go about. They'd rather just throw something in and keep, because it's just easier to do that than actually tackle the project.
What if that is your happy thing, that you just have one of those rooms?
It can't be your happy thing. Because
imagine your happy space.
Imagine the space you'll have and the beautiful room you'll have when you're done. So having a purpose for every room in your home will really help you'll have good flow in your home, you'll have good energy in your home, because there's not that one room that has that stagnant energy in it.
True. So being able to empty that one room, and then you can work from that starting point.
Yeah, it's just about categorizing everything in there, going through piece by piece, figuring out what you need, what you don't need, what can live in another area of the home. And there's always a spot, I think it's the process just too overwhelming to go in there. But once you start digging through, you'll say, oh, this belongs in the kitchen, or I forgot I had. The two things people will always tell me is, I forgot I had that, and I was looking for that. Those are the two top things people will tell me. Because you forget what you have when it's thrown in a bottom of a pile in the closet, or when you're looking for things, it happens. So.
And the other thing is, you have to be ready.
You do. You have to be ready to declutter. Part of the organizing process is decluttering. So you have to be willing to declutter some things. And if you're not ready to get rid of anything yet, then you're not ready to get organized, because part of that process is decluttering. And being in the right mindset, you may have gone through a divorce, you may have had a baby, you may have been organized, but something happened where now you're not an organized person. So you want to be mentally ready in whatever's going on in your life to actually tackle this project. So.
And how do you, what are some signs that you know that you're ready? You just have that feeling, or?
One of them is you say, I don't have enough time in the day. There's not enough time, and the first thing I'll ask somebody if they say, I don't have any free time. Are you organized? Because when you're organized, you'll have free time, and you'll have structure in your life, and you'll plan and prepare, and that will help you move forward. So if you think there's not enough time in the day, and you're running around with your head cut off and trying to do 100 things at once, I always say it might be time to get organized. So that, and just if you're overwhelmed, you're stressed out, the kids' rooms are disorganized, you're always telling them to straighten their rooms, and it's just getting frustrating. There needs to be systems in place in the home when you're organized. And so when you're craving structure and you want to release that overwhelm, that might help too. So there's a lot of factors that come into play.
I like the idea of a segment of how to get your kids to get organized.
Oh, we'll definitely talk about that one of these weeks.
Yeah. I like that idea because I feel like a lot of moms are overwhelmed because they have to be organized for everybody, and how are you organized just for your kids?
And not to get off topic too much, but with the kids, so many parents will say, go straighten your room to the kids. And when the kids don't have the skill set, they don't know what that means. So if your kids are just throwing clothes in a pile in their room or shoving things in a drawer, that's all they know. If the parents are disorganized, they can't transfer that skill set to the kids. So they can't be too hard on the kids if they're not, or the parents aren't organized, because when they tell the kids to clean the room or straighten their room, they don't know what that means.
They don't know.
So most of the time, if both parents are disorganized, they can't transfer that skill set to the kids, and it's so important for the kids today to have that organizational skill set in their areas of all the areas of life. So.
All right, Kristin, well, thank you so much. So those were some big things to talk about before you actually get organized. And we just were thinking about more topics to talk about for next week. So you're going to be with us every Thursday, which is really exciting.
Yes, I'm so excited.
So thank you so much for joining us, Kristin, with
Thank
Organizing
you.
in RI, and she also writes a column for us.
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Yes.
So you can check that out as well. So, Kristin, thank you so much
You're
for joining
welcome.
us.
Thank you for having me.
And so we're going to take a brief break. So I'm going to